You wasted no time hopping at it. It's been a big 48, 72 hours of how quickly do people rush to the microphones with the right things post Charlottesville. You are right there offering up by name exactly the kind of folks whose un-American and damaging views are of no value in a principled debate. But now we get to the issue of law and order and crime and punishment. Can you help us with an update on what a federal probe into Charlottesville might look like?
Well, any time you have an act of domestic terrorism, I think the Department of Justice needs to engage and investigate and prosecute. And the video of what appears to be a white supremacist or a Nazi driving his car into a crowd of people, murdering one woman, injuring a great many others, on its face appears to be domestic terrorism. And so I'm glad that Attorney General Jeff Sessions is stepping forward and treating it with the seriousness it deserves. When it comes to what happened in Charlottesville, that breaks all our hearts. I mean, you turn it on and it just, we shouldn't be seeing this in America. Listen, Nazis and the Klan and white supremacists, these guys are racist, bigoted thugs. They're idiots. What they are saying is wrong. They are lies. And under the First Amendment, they have a right to speak. Even those profoundly wrong have a right to speak and express their views, but they got to express it peaceably. They don't have a right to violence. They don't have a right to murder. They don't have a right to assault others. But if you have Nazis in the Klan speaking, I think the rest of us have a moral obligation to denounce the lies and bigotry and evil and hatred that they're spreading.
I think that's a perfect definition of the way the First Amendment works. There was going to be a gathering at A&M. They've canceled it, thank God.
Yep.
And it was going to be some folks coming down to complain about Black Lives Matter. That's great. I complained about them too. But it was going to be the Richard Spencer crowd, which means, oh, my Lord, and then there were going to be counter-protesters. Is there something that might be such a big powder keg that you just say we're not going to let this happen?
Well, about a month ago, the Senate Judiciary Committee had a hearing on free speech on campuses. Mm-hmm. And we've seen a pattern all over the country of leftist administrators, leftist professors shutting down free speech because students object, because students are threatening violence themselves, and for any speaker that differs from the leftist orthodoxy and ideology of the faculty. And you see the faculty and administrators far too often going along and facilitating this. I think that's really unfortunate. And, the point I made a minute ago about the Nazis and the Klan is actually a point I made at that hearing a month ago. There's a major Supreme Court case came many years ago out of the city of Skokie, Illinois, where the Nazis there wanted to march in a parade, and Skokie did not want to let them march in a parade. And the Supreme Court ruled, quite rightly, that the First Amendment protects their right to speak in favor of whatever they want to speak, even if it's something as grotesque and evil as Nazism. And as I said at that hearing, when people do choose to use their free speech rights to advocate hatred and evil, the rest of us are obliged to counter it. Now, I don't think you counter it with censorship. Mm-hmm. I agree with John Stuart Mill, who talked about the marketplace of ideas, and the best cure for bad speech, for bad ideas, is more speech and better ideas. And so I think that's the approach we want to have. I will say I'm glad that Spencer and the white supremacists are not coming to A&M. Their hatred.
Oh my gosh, do we have a blip? Hang on. I'm going to put that back on hold, Ron, to try to reestablish real fast. And I tell you what, let's do. How about if I take let me take the break real quick?
He's there.
No, hang on a second. Senator, we had a cellular burp. You got halfway through the sentence. You're glad they thought better of coming to A&M. Go ahead.
Yes, no, I'm glad they're not coming to A&M. I think Texas doesn't need to listen to their garbage, and so I'm glad that they chose to go elsewhere.
Here's what's weird. Mayor Rawlings has an announcement today about what he wants to do with like a Confederate statue of Robert E. Lee on Dallas property, and I'm probably going to align with those who say leave that statue alone. What a weird thing, and maybe you're with me on that, I don't know, but if we are, we find ourselves in league momentarily, microscopically, with that whole crowd. So does that mean because we hate them, we bail on the cause of keeping the statues? How do you triangulate?
Well, look, and one of the things we're seeing going on is the media and the Democrats are, to the surprise of no one, demagoguing this issue and using it for political advantage. So in the media's telling that they want to tar and feather any Republican, any conservative, and paint us all as these crazy racist nutbags. A couple of days ago, a New York Times reporter tweeted that my comments condemning the Klan and condemning the Nazis and Marco Rubio's comments doing the same, that they were nothing more than, quote, posturing for 2020. And I have to admit, Mark, I read that tweet at the dinner table, and it ticked me off. And so I sent a response to the tweet, and my response was, well, gosh, you're right. After all, Nazis and the Klan have so much love for Cuban Americans.
Absolutely.
God bless. If you want to attack, could you try not calling us Nazis, you numbskull?
It's their chief index card. We'll be fighting it forever, but we have warriors like you for which we are constantly glad. Safe travel, sir. We always appreciate you on the show, and thanks for checking in today, and I know we'll talk again soon.
Well, Mark, thanks for all you're doing. I will tell you the final end of that story. Yes. I sent the tweet at the dinner table, and I got in trouble with Heidi. She was really mad at me for tweeting at the dinner table rather than talking to the girls. But I was so worked up by the Times reporter, I had to send the tweet.
There's got to be special dispensation sometimes. Senator Ted Cruz, God bless you, sir.